I'm Paul Tokizolu, and welcome to another episode of the show. March 12th, we will be covering the Matrix Jiu-Jitsu Invitational Tournament in Kaiserslautern, Germany. This will be a tournament pitting 5 of the toughest competitors in the local area against one another in a round-robin, submission-only war for survival. It's going to be a really good time. The winner will take home €400 cash prize. They'll also get a 6-month free account to Yoga for BJJ. The winner will also get a support package from our sponsor, BJJ Fight Gear. Our other sponsors include Inverted Gear, Grindstone Grappling Company, and Musoo Gear. Additionally, if you live anywhere in the local area, the weekend of the 25th and 26th of March, we'll be hosting Leg Lock Weekend at Matrix Jiu-Jitsu in Kaiserslautern. On the 25th of March, we're going to be hosting Oliver Taza from the Danaher Death Squad and TriStar. He's going to be coming to teach a leg locks focused seminar on the 25th of March. On the 26th of March, Dean Lister will be returning to the Academy to teach a seminar also focused on leg locks. I'm really excited for these events, and if you're interested in coming, all of the information can be found on our social media channels. Today, we're doing a bit of a different format for this podcast. This is a format that I've become really interested in from listening to Tim Ferriss's podcast. He uses this method a lot. Today will be a question and answer session with Erik Owings. Erik is a 3rd degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Renzo Gracie and Carlos Gracie Jr. Predominantly, Erik was trained under John Danaher at the Renzo Gracie headquarters in New York City. Erik is also an expert when it comes to strength and conditioning, movement training, posture, exercises, and anything to do with kind of moving your body correctly and maximizing your performance. He's worked extensively with Georges St-Pierre developing the Rushfit series of workout DVDs. For this episode, you are not going to be burdened at all by my voice or my thoughts. I know it can be difficult sometimes. I sent some questions to Erik that we generated here at Matrix and also from talking to some of you listeners. Erik was nice enough to record his answers and send them back to me. If you guys enjoy this format for a podcast, I'm really interested in doing more just like this one. I think it's really cool. If you disagree and you don't like it, make sure you let me know and I'll take that into account. Please welcome Erik Owings.
Okay, so I'm going to read the question and then give my response. Number 1, I'm fascinated by your post on Facebook and many you write about the importance of efficiency. In one of your recent posts, about developing a luxury BJJ gym, you wrote that your students are training a max of 4 to 5 hours a week. How do you structure each training session to provide your students with maximum learning benefit? I would imagine each session must have ample thought and planning in order to maximize results. There is a thought put into it and planning, but it's into the macro plan, not the micro plan, not the lesson by lesson plan. It's essentially teaching people. I teach jiu-jitsu. I wouldn't say different than anybody else who's teaching the way that I do, but I would say you should start first and foremost with a real fight. And self-defense isn't a bad thing, like learning some of the ways to defend yourself against ignorant grips. I kind of like doing it to show people like, hey, this is, what it's capable of doing. But I like to always think of fighting another skilled grappler and recognizing the gap, that can be filled with strikes. I think, different people have different approaches. So if you don't acknowledge that and you look at it as just a game and it's just a rolling around and just trying to get even just submissions, and people act like just getting submissions is the essence of jiu-jitsu. I don't absolutely agree with that. Even some of my really good friends, that's their viewpoint, that the essence of jiu-jitsu is submission. I would say it's a form of control that leads to submission. That's what John Danaher says, and I agree with that. But even still, I would say a form of control that recognizes that at any point that there is a gap, it's going to be getting filled with a strike. So if you always have a gap between you and your opponent, even if it's just like a foot between your chest and his chest, That can be filled with knees, elbows, headbutts, at more distance, punches, kicks, and then, weapons can come into play. And I think there has to be, you have to come to a point and say, okay, well, how much do I want to learn each thing? So, self-defense, a real fight perspective, gi, no gi, takedowns, groundwork, all subs, leg locks, you name it. That's a lot to teach people. And, basically, if I cover that circle of techniques, like that big pie of techniques, and I'm constantly trying to fill it in, and not just adding judo to add judo and adding wrestling to add wrestling and adding, another component, a thing of sambo to add that. Does it cohesively integrate into a way that's, able to utilize. And maybe it's not what I like to do. Sometimes I'll teach people not what I like to do, but just because it's a technique and say, here, let's become aware of this. I think that's the thing of a good instructor. You have to be willing to step outside of what you like to do to make sure people have a more vast understanding. Plus, I have a pretty open policy with the other trainers. Like, everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, and we let everyone kind of teach what they find that they're best at. So that's definitely part of it. It's more about teaching the complete system and really focusing on detail. Our classes aren't too big. We have a lot of instructors per class. There's a lot of reasons why people make results. We make sure people use their brains and don't zone out. There's a lot of things to it. It's not just the curriculum, but the curriculum does play a part in it. Question number 2, similar to the last question, you said before you could take someone all the way to black belt in 2 to 3 years. When you expanded on that post, you explained what involved many private lessons, tough physical training, incredible focus involved in each session. Forgive me if I'm missing any points. Can you provide insight into what these private lessons would entail? Would the physical condition aspect be a part of the private lessons, or would that be done separately? So that post, I wasn't really expecting me to become the point of controversy in a write-up, and then people questioning my pedigree or if I have any skills and whatever. And let's be clear that the black belt is it's a manipulation in jiu-jitsu. I say that because I've been around enough high-level jiu-jitsu throughout my life to know that once somebody has been training for 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 hours a day, they are tough, especially if they have physical talent and previous combat background experience. It was a catchphrase that I put 2 to 3 years. And I'm not trying to get rich quick. I have never promoted, my investor I promoted to his black belt. He's really logged in probably like 10,000 hours of training. All my students at my gym, some have been training there for 4 years. Nobody's passed a blue belt, to put it into perspective. So yeah, this person hasn't walked into the door. And there's people that I train with. My buddy John Cholish is a UFC fighter, all-American wrestler at Cornell Division I school, top tier MMA guy, really good at jiu-jitsu, has won a lot of competitions, and he's still a brown belt. Makes no sense to me. It's ridiculous, actually, the fact that he's a brown belt. Was my top training partner for a long time. And when I look at somebody like him, he's a black belt. And any person who's been putting in the hours for 2 or 3 years is a black belt. What it is, it's a manipulation for competition. The reality is it should be like judo. Black belts aren't necessarily that hard to get. Winning an Olympic or a world championship or even a national gold medal is extremely difficult. And that's the thing. All these world champions would disappear, and the industry of the IBJJF, the way they've created it, would disappear if you were just to have, it's a race to black belt, then let the cream rise to the top. I think it's all kind of a joke. It's comical. If someone, what it should be is like, it should be a quick black belt, in my opinion. And then the degree should mean something. So basically what I'm suggesting is a whole different belt system. And, basically a black belt saying that you're competent. Like, for example, I'm fluent in English, but I make thousands of mistakes on pronunciation. I don't know the definition of thousands of words. It's a vast language. So I'm not technically 100% fluent. So therefore, I'm not really a black belt. The funny thing about jiu-jitsu is that each year that you get a degree, like every 3 years that I'm a third degree black belt, it means I'm aging. I don't feel like I'm devolving, but a lot of people, I see it, they beat the crap out of themselves through all these wars and attrition to get the black belt, to wear it like a badge of honor. Then they get progressively worse and quit training, but then their rank goes up. I don't agree with that. So that's my main thing about that post is basically just saying like, it makes no sense to me. And if someone really puts in the time, and there again, I'm asking them to put in about 2,500 hours of real focus training, not sitting on the mats talking, real focus training. When they're not training, it doesn't count. To put that in, if you're training 6 days a week and you're only taking like say 4 weeks vacation where you travel, 6 days a week at, say 48 weeks, that's only it's going to take you about 8 years at that rate. So you're going to have to do 2 hours a day, like 5-6 days a week, and in order to get it within 5 years. And that would be a very dedicated student. And the 2 to 3 years is like, it's basically what you'd call a mat rat, a person that's just going to be there all the time, who has previous combat athletic experience and is really wanting to do it. And yeah, I could do that. But here's the thing. So could anybody else who's a good jiu-jitsu instructor. So anybody that took offense to that is just, they got their head way up their ass and they don't understand that much. And in time, maybe they'll never understand what it is because maybe their head's going to be still rammed way up their own ass. But, I'm not really too concerned with these people. In the regards to the physical conditioning aspect, would it be included? Absolutely. Everything has to be cohesive. It has to become a lifestyle. It has to become something that each part of it is beneficial to you. You can't have all these separate components. That's why so many people can't learn because they're trying to learn too much and it's too different. The idea of a good teacher is giving the cohesion so they don't have to waste their time. So yes, the physical conditioning will be put into it, but a lot of it's like kind of like a do-it-yourself type thing, like with a little bit of like checkups, maybe like once a month to see where improvements being made and where things need to go. Number 3, many of your posts are about physical training, body flexibility, mobility, and other aspects of overall health. How much should a competitive BJJ athlete focus on strength training outside the academy? How many sessions a week would you encourage? It doesn't have to be done outside of the academy. And it really depends upon where the person's at. It's like the concept of periodization. There's like phases where you might want to do more strength training, but from what I've seen, most people can't really do a one arm, one leg, one arm push up or a planche push up or a one arm pull up or even good pistols. You put in a little bit of external resistance, whether it's a weighted vest, some kettlebells or dumbbells. Most people, that's plenty of strength. You have to remember our goal is not to become weightlifters. And if it is your goal, then if it's weightlifting and jiu-jitsu, that's fine. I mean, we can have a million different goal sets, but for most people, for what they want to become a stronger, a better athlete with jiu-jitsu, they don't really need to be doing stuff outside of the academy. And they could do, there's a mobility dynamic, aspect that they probably want to do before training and more of a strength or a power and endurance aspect after training. And they could do that all on their own. The thing is, a lot of gyms won't allow that, a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms. So therefore they may have to go outside of it and they may have to do it in the morning. But, that's what I do. I do mobility in the morning but I train all day with my clients. So I have a little bit different lifestyle, but, every person could, I think they could, definitely benefit from, becoming a better athlete. And there again, if you're overtraining, that's making you a worse athlete. So, unless you're taking anabolic steroids, if you're on the juice, then you can really get away with training pretty much as much as you want. If you're not, there's a finite capacity and you can build that capacity over time, but it takes time and it changes with all the other variables of stress in your life, whether it's work, relationships, money problems, like whatever it is, any form of stress is going to detract from your ability to do that. So there's a lot to it. That's what I'm really all about, lifestyle and creating a lifestyle over than just giving arbitrary numbers that don't necessarily mean that much. Each individual is going to differ on that. Number 4, what is your opinion on athletes who only train jiu-jitsu and do little to no outside specific strength, little to no outside strength specific training? Are they setting themselves up for injury? And do you think it could be sustainable? I think anything's possible. I just would say why. It's so easy to include 15 to 20 minutes to balance out your body. Why would you not do that? It's just like the same people that refuse to learn leg locks or refuse to learn takedowns. I mean, everyone's got their own choice and their own view. So I'm not going to say what they should or shouldn't do. I just totally don't agree with them. I absolutely disagree. So yeah, that's my answer there. Number 5, you recently asked people on your page, how would they define functional fitness? The responses were great from a wide variety of people. What were your thoughts about the thread and how would you yourself define functional fitness? I don't give away the definition of functional fitness. It's kind of like, I guess, like a cone or a riddle that I ask people. So I don't like giving it away. I give it to my clients, and I let them sort of understand it because that's what they're coming to me for. But it's actually, there is what I would call absolute human functional fitness. And, we all know what it is, but it's funny if you tell people, you kind of cheapen the result. But let me just say this. Most people's idea of functional fitness is dysfunctional. Most activities that we do are dysfunctional, or I would say, inhuman activities, or even superhuman activities. If you want to look at from depending on which perspective you want to look at it. And that's why I look at jiu-jitsu. It's an art of manipulating human biomechanics. So it's essentially dysfunctional. And to become good at it, you sort of become inhuman or superhuman. And that's anything, to become a swimmer or anything else. There's within the realm of relative functional fitness, as each person will define it, every definition could technically be correct. You could be a video game wizard and just have really dexterous hands, and that could be really functional fitness for you. But that's not absolute functional fitness. And everybody should know the answer to this without me telling them. And if you can't find the answer, then you need to search for it. And if you're thinking like, man, this fucking guy, he's not answering the question. He's leaving it. There's a reason why I'm not answering it. If you can't really say the same answer that everybody else would say, what is absolute human functional fitness? And there again, there's a lot of leeway within this. There's really just a few things that define what being really human, what they are. And if you can't define those, you don't understand it. And just, I guess a little bit, I'll give you a couple of tips. It's not squat, bench press, deadlift, and it's not the CrossFit games, and it's not any single activity. So, or actually it is an activity, but it's not the activity the way we typically look at when we hear the word functional fitness. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm right on this one, but people got to discover that. Okay. Number 6, for an athlete who wants to start getting involved in functional fitness, what would you recommend? Where should they start? Yoga, gymnastics, etc. What are some good sources on the internet for programming? I'm really hoping to have my online academy going, so I'm going to plug my own thing there. We've had a hold up. I've been doing it with a student who happens to be a computer programmer, and the website's taken way longer. It's usually the way it goes when you do things on the work a deal out thing with people. Sometimes it's best just to pay money, but hopefully we'll have it up here soon. I really plan on already launching. So when my academy is up, actually, it's going to be a great source, especially for the martial arts athlete. But, yeah, there's all kinds of good sources. It could be yoga. It could be gymnastics. It could be personal training. It could be Olympic weightlifting. It could be a kettlebell gym. It's really more about the coach. And I think that if you're doing things in group classes, you may have a lot of problems unless you're going into it and you're already a very athletic person. What I'm saying, a lot of people might get upset if they make all their money off group classes. I make most of my money off private lessons. I teach small group classes at the gym, and I have a very small membership. I don't have a widely successful gym of something you would see like at a Renzo Gracie or a Gracie Baja. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Those types of gyms can do just fine. They produce a lot of champions, and I haven't produced any champions really. One guy won the worlds in the no-gi, but it's in the masters and blue belt. So I'm talking about black belt world champions in the adult division. I haven't produced any of those. So hey, what can I say? When it comes to yoga, gymnastics, CrossFit, all that stuff, I think they could all be great. But I think if you're just doing kind of like, there isn't real specific emphasis on what are proper biomechanics and what should you be doing and what do you need to do, not just really say, what's the class doing? There may be some problems there, but overall, if you're smart enough and you have good intuition and you're studying on your own and going deeper into it, you could probably train anywhere if you have enough discretion to say, no, I'm not doing that, or I'm not ready for that. And that's the thing, is if you can separate your ego and become more of a sort of instinctual, in tune, in the flow, and also always searching and scouring for knowledge, any starting point's fine. You're going to find there's a lot of overlap. That's what I find. There's a lot of interconnectedness with almost all these systems. And if there's not, and people deny that, it's probably a cult-like mentality. The bare bones of CrossFit is actually pretty damn good. Olympic lifting, gymnastics, interval training. I got a CrossFit cert back in 2008. It's now expired because I didn't renew it. I just went to seminar, and you get the certification. So there again, a person that goes to a week in seminars, that make them a great coach? Probably not. If someone happens to be really into fitness the way that I am, really into understanding biomechanics, really into just the study of all this stuff, yeah, CrossFit could be a great approach. So I don't really, it's just like any martial art. There's guys in karate that can knock my head off. There's guys in boxing. There's probably some Wing Chun dude that would lopsow me and knock my head off. So, yeah, it's more about like, the person, not necessarily the style. And there's just human biomechanics and human movement, and whoever is focusing on that it's a fine place to start. If it doesn't make sense to you after like 3 or 4 months, maybe you need to try something else. Maybe the person's not a good teacher. Maybe that's not kind of resonating with you, and you got to find what resonates with you. But there's a lot of modalities. But you got to remember, if your thing is combat athletics and you're really becoming good at CrossFit or really becoming good at kettlebells or Olympic lifting or gymnastics, you only have a certain amount of neuromuscular real estate, amount of learning you can do in the neuromuscular system. If you don't maximize the priority of, really getting that in as the bulk of your training and using the strength and conditioning as supplemental to make you better at your mainstay activity, you may become really good at CrossFit and then just average at, jiu-jitsu or, becoming a mixed martial artist or whatever. Martial arts require a lot of neuromuscular real estate. So a little bit of really solid, basic, fundamental, functional training can go a long way. In my opinion, most people do too much fitness and they do spend too much time looking for the secret instead of just putting in the hard work and the discipline of working on the fundamentals of everything. That's my personal view. 7, you're currently working on a book, and your excerpts so far have been extremely informative. What types of information are you trying to include, and what information are you most excited to share? For me, the book I wrote it all in a night. It was like a big, just getting it all out, just typed it all up. It's been, I don't know how long. I was up for maybe 9 hours. I got insomnia one night and just said, I'm going to write a book. Then there's an ending chapter, which I like the most. And it's more of my views. I'm not saying that I'm right or that everybody else is wrong, but I have a strong view that there's why a lot of people aren't fit. And the real issue with fitness comes down to our lifestyle. Our pursuit of money, I think kind of corrupt education with people just, being indoctrinated in fact learning, not learning how to critically think, exercise being seen as something esoteric and exotic, the food system, the medical system, the monetary system. I really question everything. So I kind of went, that's where I did a lot of writing on it. And when I went back and reread the book, I was like, wow, I kind of got 2 books here. One's a fitness book and one's like a book on my social views. So I didn't really know what to do with it. And it's kind of crazy to think I've sort of written 2 books, and I've never published 1 book, but the fitness one, it's always evolving. So for me, it's like, it's like the idea of water. I think water is like thoughts. And if it's in a free flow, it doesn't stagnate and it stays fresh and clean and pure. That's the way my thoughts work. So even when I write stuff down, it wasn't like a bad book. When I proofread it, it's good, but it's already moved since then. And that's the thing, is I'm better in a conversation. I'm better to, talk to people, to work with people. So I think the online things, what I'm going to do with the book, I may just give away for free. Online, I'm not really sure what I want to do with it yet, if I can even find a publisher. It's just kind of it's just sitting on my computer, and I haven't done anything with it yet. And I would say it's different. But there's a lot of people out there that are doing stuff like me, that talk like me. That's the thing, is because there's overlap, because everybody's always looking for the secret. That's the thing, is there's only so many things you can do with the human body. There's only so many ways there's a million interpretations of that, and everybody can have a different interpretation and their own little nuanced thing. I always try to focus on fundamentals. That's how I teach jiu-jitsu. I try to teach solid fundamentals. That's how I teach fitness, solid fundamentals. The advanced aspects are for people that really want to walk that path. But, so that's what I think with any good book, it should give you, the capacity for you to think and grow from it, not just regurgitate. I don't want to create just another corny method that I attach a bunch of products onto and then people do that. So there's a part of me, I'm always kind of, one foot in, one foot out when it comes to any type of commercialized system, because for me, it's really my life. And so it's me sharing my life's work. And I always feel that I've already moved on from where I was at even just like a week ago. And I think that's how everybody should be. I think we should be in a state of flow and Kaizen, constant never-ending improvement. So if we're doing that, it's almost like the book's never up to date, and I don't want to keep rewriting new books. That's not really my thing. I'm not trying to become like a New York Times best-selling author or anything. But hopefully we'll get it out there soon. I don't really know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe I'll write more or rewrite it or do something else. But as for now, my main focus for, I guess, mainstream stuff is online academy, and who knows, maybe do like another DVD set or just digital download thing or something, kind of like Rushfit. Let's see, number 8. You write often about posture, the dangers of sitting too long, and how a bad posture can reverse time spent in the gym. Can you explain more in depth? Really simple. We're not made to sit in chairs. It's there again, it's part of what I was talking about in the book. There's all kinds of problems with our society that really lead to our lack of health, and basically everybody acting like being an athlete's something special. Cultures that don't have furniture don't have the same amount of back pain unless you put them into repetitive manual labor where they're overdoing a certain pattern over and over and over again. We should squat, not sit. Most people can't squat. Babies can squat. But we beat it out of them. We put them in the chairs and tell them to sit upright, and people, they get the curvatures of their spine out of whack. They lose their hip mobility, their shoulder mobility, constantly flexing, not extending. Hip flexors, basically become shortened. The erector spinae becomes shortened. The neck moves forward. The head moves forward. The kyphosis in the thoracic spine, the sticking out of the back goes too far out. The lordosis goes too far in. We start getting back pain. We start getting collapsed arches, which lead to collapsed knees, which lead to knee problems. There's a lot of things. It's actually a huge part of what is the most dysfunctional thing in our society. And people are sitting all the time. They're sitting way too much. I mean, people sit on, the plane, the train, the automobile. People sit at home watching TV. They sit all the time. They sit eating their food. It's like, it's seen as like sort of like I guess poverty to not be able to sit down in a nice big chair. So yeah, sitting's really bad. I have a couple chairs in my house, but mostly I'm on the floor. I have a tatami mat. I sleep on the tatami mat. I've never felt better. So, I'm going to stick to that. Chairs are killing us. And there's a lot of science to back that up too, that it's really causing problems. It's basically just as bad for you as chain smoking. So there again, you can eat your, 6 balanced meals a day, but sit in a chair for 12 hours and you may be just as healthy as the guy who eats donuts and, chain smokes cigarettes and pounds alcohol. I don't know. I'd rather do neither of those and eat clean and not sit in chairs all day, but that's just me. So number 9, building off the last question, for someone who works 8 hours per day desk job, does not have the option to quit at the moment, or maybe they love their job and also trains BJJ and wants to be in excellent shape, what is the best course of action for staying healthy and improving their posture? Really simple. Do an honest assessment of how often you sit, and do 5 minutes of mobility for every hour that you're sitting. Do 5 minutes of gait, whether that's walking, running, or sprinting. And typically, when running, I don't mean jogging. I actually mean really running, and sprinting is just all out running. But running is like really like a fast, brisk, fast paced run. Something's going to get the wind out of you. So the majority of that would probably be like 80%, walking or more, 19% or less running, and then 1% or less of sprinting throughout the course of the day. So most people actually look at them, they sit about 12 hours a day. If they work 8 hour per day desk job, and between their meals and everything else, if they just did it in this kept time and every hour marked an hour and then restart the stopwatch on their phone, how often are they sitting? Most people probably sit in 10 to 12 hours. So that's 50 minutes of mobility training. And you could work that in your day if you know you're not going to rip the pants, of your suit or something, or get all sweaty. You could work that in to just throughout your day, which is what I recommend to people, not just trying to get it on in a workout, but you could do it in the morning. And walking, gait, these are like essential functions. Then there's corrective exercise. I'm not even talking about mobility stuff. The mobility stuff is just trying to create some movement in the body. So yeah, I mean, the more you want to sit around and the more you want to lead the typical lifestyle, you're going to have to invest, a couple hours a day into reversing those things just through movement and, being active outside of being seated. And then if you throw in your jiu-jitsu training, you're training just as much as a professional athlete at that point, but more than half the training is just to reverse things. And if you don't do that, you're probably going to have injuries and problems. And that's the thing. And that's where I really do think that we just work too much as a society to meet the goals that we want to, because things are so expensive. So there's a lot of, I'm not trying to say, hey, you should quit your job, but in a way, I guess I am. Like, it's not the best advice. I know it's what people want to hear, but I was homeless twice in New York when, before I was able to establish my clientele in my gym. And I grew up very poor, but I always focused on my goals. And I will say being broke makes it very hard to be healthy. And there's a stress that comes along with financial stress. But, like for me, my whole life has been trying to always improve. And for me, I never wanted to just pursue money to say, well, later on, I'll fix those things. I don't believe in living life later on. I believe in living life right now. So, I think that's the thing is if that's your thing, you can't quit your job, or you love your job and you want to work your job, but your job requires you to sit at a desk all day, make it as ergonomically correct as possible, work on your seated posture, work on your sleeping posture, have a mobility routine that you can do before work, during work, after work, incorporate your strength conditioning scientifically along with your training. And, everybody has the same 168 hours a week, 24 hours a day. If you eat clean, you typically can sleep a little less and have more energy throughout the day. That can give you the time that you were missing right there. So that's the thing is I always tell people, you got to really embrace the lifestyle, because that's really what it is. If it's not, cohesively intertwined, like if it's not just becoming part of who you are, it's probably not really what you want to do. And I always tell the people, that's why I've never binded anybody to a contract at my gym. We have people sign a membership agreement, the people that do the group classes. But, I've let every single person go. I know a lot of martial arts gym owners don't do that. And they say, oh, that's, it's just not a good way to run a business, Eric. But it's like, I think the way they run a business is wrong. You should not have people doing something that they don't want to do. If they don't want to do it, then don't waste your time. Life's short. So make sure you enjoy it. But, I think you'll enjoy life much more if you can move better, if you don't have joint pain, you don't have body pain, and you are strong, fast, flexible. Basically, being a good athlete, it's going to make you more attractive physically. You're going to function better. I think everything in your life gets better, and you can learn quicker. So everything that you're doing is going to get better. So I think people should really take an interest in doing that. But it has to be integrated into the lifestyle. You can't see it like, oh, I do postural exercises for 5 minutes a day. It doesn't work. Then the rest of the time, the other 23 hours and 55 minutes, you're in bad posture, then, well, you just wasted 5 minutes. You'd be better off, I don't know, watching a YouTube video, or watching porn. I don't know, just doing something that would bring you more pleasure. So yeah, I think, it's the lifestyle integration, the acceptance that you're always on the clock. You're never off the clock. And if you are, then you just, maybe you haven't woken up to the fact that you only live once, at least that we know. Okay. Number 10, what are 3 or less / more of the biggest takeaways you had from training with John Danaher? Both of you post often about efficiency in training. Is it something you learned from him, or do you think you both learned from another source? Renzo Gracie, perhaps. John was probably the biggest influence on my learning how to learn. I never went to college. I would probably say my last year I paid attention in high school was my sophomore year. I just made good enough grades my freshman and sophomore year to glide through. And though I skipped 100 days of school my senior year, I still graduated. But I was pretty much out of school. John's a true academic. So for him, he had a little bit different outlook on learning. And one thing I took away from him is note taking, breaking things down, like looking at things in a much more complex way, not just simple solutions. The basics are complex. Within the basics, there's a lot of information. So when people say, oh yeah, I got that, I always laugh when people say, they drill a move like 10 times, or they look at it once, they drill it once, like, oh, that's great. And it's like, you're not going to remember it. You have to ingrain it. So John, he's he's handicapped. Now he has a hip problem. Before he's always had a knee problem. And so I think it just forced him to always, look at things differently. And when I started training with John, I didn't train with him for the first couple of years. I've always thought that there was always kind of like a rift between John's style and what we would call the Brazilian style from the Gracies, but it's all under one roof and they all get along. But to me, I lived with Igor and Gregor and Hollis, coming up from Brazil for the first couple of years. And it always seemed like there was like the Brazilians and then there was like John and Sean at the time, Williams, who eventually went away. But, John and I became really close. He just grabbed me one day and started basically just told me, you don't know anything and I'm going to start showing you stuff. And he just started just teaching me very here, put this gi top on. I think he was using me to practice moves on. And, but I was learning through the osmosis of that, and he'd give me sort of a guideline and I'd take notes and I'd grab people and I'd train and I'd try it in class. And it really, I went from being like a tough brown belt to I think being a very well-rounded black belt. And a lot of that was under John's guidance. And, at the time, like around 2006, 2007, like 2006, I became friends with Georges St-Pierre, who was already coming to the gym and training. And, then we all started training. I was always the uke, with George when John was teaching him for most of his fights. So I always got to be around that night. So many other people, like Gunnar Nelson was a big influence, Kenny Florian, all the people. There's so many people that become influences on your training. And if not, it's just probably because you're not receptive to it. But, when I was living in Brazil, Marcia Feitosa, Flavio Almeida, just, at Gracie Baja, they were helpful. I mean, there's been so many helpful people. If I actually started naming all the people that have helped me, I mean, Renzo is a great coach and a very charismatic person. Just a great person to be around, great energy. He wasn't that influential on my actual training as far as giving me advice. But I consider him to be a good coach in a different way, and not just on the emotional level, but, he makes you feel better. But when it comes to technical advice, to me, John's the best. He's, cause he's always critical and he's always looking at it from, I guess, the bigger picture. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people, they're always looking for secrets. And the thing is, there is no secret. I mean, a lot of how John became good is just whenever you walk into the gym, you see him back watching videos on YouTube doing stop, start, breaking down the mechanics, then practicing the mechanics. So that's something I took from him. I don't really train with John that much anymore. I haven't really trained at Renzo's consistently in probably like the past 3 or 4 years. But, he taught me how to learn, and that's the most important thing that I took from him. So for me, I think he was a critical piece for making me stay in love and fall deeper in love with jiu-jitsu and martial arts, and keeping, myself learning and improving and keep sharpening the blade. Although it's not really under his tutelage anymore, I feel that I'm able to learn all over the place, and I get to keep up with him, through social media. And, I also get to get some insights into what's going on from all the guys from the Gracie Academy that come down and train with me at the gym, that do their conditioning stuff. Eddie Cummins, Tavia Bourdain, they come down and train. And as are some of the Gracie guys, they come down, and Sapo and Liam. I used to always get little, information on what's going on. And I'm glad that he's doing well, and I'm glad that he's finally getting his fair share of recognition, because it's long overdue. He's I think the best teacher out there. I've always said that. I think that no one's a better teacher than him. And, he's got a lot of unique views. Some people don't like him so much. Some people get all upset because he never competed and other things. But, if you haven't met him, and you get a chance to go to New York and train with him, or if he's teaching a seminar around, you should go to it. Fascinating person. I wish somebody would do like an autobiography. I wish he'd do an autobiography. I wish somebody would write a biography or do a book about him, or do a documentary film. Cause I think, he's a very interesting person, very cool dude. And I think, the more people, could be around him, their jiu-jitsu would improve vastly, but just their ability to do anything would improve. He has a very, I don't agree with it 100%. There again, I have my own views on stuff, but I think he has a great outlook on how to improve in life. And, I really respect him, along with a lot of other people, a lot of other influences on me. But John was definitely a big influence on me. I still tell people he's my teacher. All right. And it looks like I got through all 10. So, I hope you guys enjoy. And, the only thing I would ask is please don't, alter anything that I say or edit anything that I say. I speak off the cuff. I don't write notes or, write a speech for stuff like this. And so I like for it to come all the way out, because I think sometimes if things get chopped up or edited too much, then I don't like being put in for sound bites. Whenever people have used my quotes for sound bites, it usually makes me look the way I don't want to look. So please just play all the answers in their entirety. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you.
Thanks so much to Erik for doing this Q&A segment, and thanks to everyone for listening. Go to matrix.com/podcast-Erik Owings for the show notes of this episode. I'm going to put a few links to some of Erik's work and where you can find him on social media and things of this nature. Once again, please tune in on the 12th of March for the Matrix Jiu-Jitsu Invitational Tournament. We are going to be covering that tournament with a live stream and some HD videos featured on our YouTube channel. The stream will be free to watch, and I hope to see as many of you guys in the digital space watching that channel as you can, as we can fit. And I think we can fit quite a few. Again, if you live in Europe, or even Africa, who knows, wherever you want to come from. The 25th and the 26th of March, we're going to be hosting Leg Lock Weekend at Matrix Jiu-Jitsu in Kaiserslautern, Germany. This weekend will feature seminars with Oliver Taza from the Danaher Death Squad and Dean Lister, the legendary 3-time ADCC champion. I'm really excited for this weekend. Hope to bring you guys some more podcasts, and can't wait to hang out with those guys. It's going to be a good time. As always, thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode of the show. We'll be back next week with an episode with Miha Pethavik from Yoga for BJJ. Lastly, as always, thanks to my friends at Waves Overhead for producing all of the theme music for the Matrix podcast. If you want to hear more of Waves Overhead, go to wavesoverhead.bandcamp.com. You can download all of their music, and you pay however much money you want. So you could pay $0, you could pay $10, you could pay $50, you could pay $2,000. Whatever, however you're feeling today, that's what you pay. Their song, To Make Amends, is the official theme music of the Matrix podcast. I played a little bit of the song at the beginning, and I'm going to play the rest for you to listen to right about now.